is in the eye of the hurricane. Brought to you by Cablish and Gentile CPAs and by Coastline Contractors.
Looking for a contractor to build your dream home, remodel, or commercial building? In Manatee County, when you want it done right, the answer is Coastline Contractors. General contracting in Anna Maria, Longboat, Bradenton, and Sarasota. And proud to be sponsors of Manatee Hurricanes football. Open spaces, luxury, attention to detail, and high-end finishes are all the hallmarks of Coastline Contractors, where they make the building process personal. Online at coastalcontractorsllc.com.
Manatee High School alums Val Cablish and Jim Gentile are proud sponsors of Manatee Hurricanes football. Together, they're the managing partners of Cablish and Gentile Certified Public Accountants of Bradenton. For years, the CPAs at Cablish and Gentile have consistently received excellent satisfaction ratings from their clients, resulting in their extremely high client retention rate. They believe their clients are an extended part of their family business. Cablish and Gentile CPAs LLC. Online at cgg-cpa.com.
This is In the Eye of the Hurricane with your host, Chad Choate.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of In the Eye of the Hurricane, presented by Coastline Contractors. I'm your host, Chad Choate, joined, as always, by the head football coach of the Manatee Hurricanes, Jacquez Green. We're going to get right into our podcast this week and talk a little bit about last week's game, Coach. Kickoff Classic against IMG Ascenders, 2 years in a row now that we've played them here at home. Come away victoriously, although it doesn't go in the record books, but a good morale booster and a lot of good things to see. 23-17 victory. Give us your overall thoughts as you and the staff got together this past weekend and analyzed the film.
It was a good victory. You know, anytime you go out and play against a different opponent, it's always good to win. Think about it that we only practiced maybe once or twice full pass this whole preseason, so it was good for us to go out and compete against a team like IMG, who I know has practiced each day and every day they've been over there. So it was a big football team. They was big on both sides of the football up front. We were down early in the game and our kids fought back, so it was good to see our kids fight back. Despite it being so humid that night, and we had a lot of kids fall out the game and not continue the game. So hopefully going forward, we can hydrate a little bit better. We can finish the game with our full roster.
I agree with you. I think before we get to offense and defense and first half, second half, I think overall, it was a good competitive game that I think we were able to see a lot of different facets, offense, defense. You even get specifically into some of the positions where we need to improve and what we can work on. And that's really what you're looking at for Kickoff Classic is a good opponent to gauge where you're at. And so let's look at the first half offensively. Looking at 3 out of the 4 possessions we had, we either scored or had a chance to score. We missed a 47-yard field goal, which in high school football, 47 yards is pretty darn far. And it was really close. I think it hit the white paint back there, just short. But we get a field goal, we get a touchdown to score our points, the 10 points in the first half there. Heidel, really good from my stats that I was keeping in the box. I think he was like around 10 for 12, 125 yards with the touchdown. So really good to see him get acclimated into the game. And I thought from a standpoint, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought play calling, you set him up for success early. Some high percentage throws, get the ball to the athletes. Was that the game plan kind of going in is let's get used to this, let's get going, get the athletes the ball and let them go?
Well, in our run game, we attach a lot of alerts on the outside in case the defense plays a certain way. Andrew did a good job of distributing the football. He was making the correct reads most of the game, getting the ball out of the perimeter. I think out of his first 7 completions, he completed the ball to 6 different receivers. So that's a good situation you have as an offensive coordinator when you have 5 or 6 different guys that can make plays. Andrew did a good job. I think it was his best game since he's been in Manatee.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about this in the preseason. That we've got so many guys who can score, and how do you distribute the ball? And maybe that's a good thing. You say, hey, it's on the quarterback to read and make those plays. One of those plays that really stood out was the first touchdown to Keyshawn, where it looked like a normal zone read. He was able to pull off. I think the defensive end attacked, and he pulled off. And then as he was about to get tackled, able to give it to Keyshawn and score. Obviously, Keyshawn, we could talk more. We will. We get the second half, but Keyshawn, an athlete that I think is going to be coming into his own this year after seeing a little bit of it last year.
He's very explosive, man. He's the type of guy, as you can see Friday night, that he can touch the ball anywhere on the field and score from distance.
You know, and one of the plays I think that will go maybe unnoticed, but I thought from a game plan standpoint, it was worth you going for it on fourth down. It was a fourth and longer. We're heading to the west end zone. It's where BJ gets the nice little out route. We didn't get the first down. We ended up pinning them inside the 10. And that from a coaching standpoint, I thought you made a great call because, hey, if you punt in the end zone, now they get on the 20. And so those little things don't necessarily go noticed in the box score. But I think you add some of those things up, some third down conversions that Weiskopf caught. I know BJ caught one. I mean, you add some of those things up, I think it's really good to see in the first game already making some of those things happen.
Yeah, at that point, we was in what you call is no man's land. It was too far for a field goal. It was really too far to convert. So I was just trying to get many yards as I can to keep those guys pinned back. I think the thing that we did well offensively was we kept those guys pinned back for the most part during the ball game. We had a turnover late where they had good field positioning. We had a snap over the punter head with bad field position. But other than that, we kept those guys pinned back and made those guys have to drive the field. You know,
second half, still looking at the offense, we come out a little bit different take, I think, and obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just observing, but it looked like we were trying to maybe stretch the field a little bit more, which I think we have multiple weapons to be able to do that with Ramsey Cole and Bond Bean, just to name a few. And I think they were there and they were open. Just, Andrew, maybe just put a little too much air on the ball. Was that something that you saw going into half, like, hey, maybe we can take advantage, or did you know this is something we hadn't seen yet, stretching the field, running some verticals. Let's see how we do with that. Or how was your calling on that?
Well, early on we were throwing a lot of short, slant routes and bubble routes and a lot of quick things. And after a while, the defenders started coming up, nudging up more and more. So I knew we had to stretch the field to give my smaller receivers more room to operate. Last year, Andrew threw the deep ball very well, so I knew that would be a part of our offense this year. A couple of times he had guys open, and one time he put too much air up on it, and one time BJ has to stack the man. He tends to he ran outside the guy and never got him back on top of the defender. So Andrew really didn't have anywhere to drop the football into. So that's something we got to work on more and take advantage of with our speed on the outside.
Yeah, in your first game, these are the things. What I saw really overall in the game were things that are correctable, right? That they're coachable and correctable. Yes. So you can't coach size. You either got it or you don't. Most of the time you can't coach athleticism. You either got it or you don't, right? So these are the things that we can coach a guy to make sure he's coming off a double team and blocking a blitzing linebacker offensive line-wise. You can correct those things. You can't correct an offensive lineman getting blown off the ball 5 yards just because he's physically not able to block, right? So a lot of great things. Also, some things in the second half, seeing a guy like Torrey Gilly has had a great, really first half of the JV year, got an injury, but a guy that you saw just in the gymnasium and said, hey, you need to come out, and I think he's someone that nobody's really heard of. They did last week because he had some really good plays in the first half, but the end around, coming back after a big interception from CJ, all of a sudden, a little burst offensively, about 3 possessions where he didn't really do much, and you call the end around, and boom, all of a sudden we're momentum's on our side and flipping. What is a guy like that and be able to make plays and calls like that do for you as a play caller to know we could do something like that to spark the offense at any
Torrey
time?
is a good football player. He's exceptionally good considering that he didn't play football much in middle school. He had an injury early on in middle school, and he stopped playing until he got into 10th grade. He's an exceptional guy. He has great size. He catches the ball out in front. He has strong hands. He's tough to tackle after the catch. If we needed him to play defense, he probably could play cornerback or defensive back also and return kicks. So he's just a good football player. We play him in the slot so he can block the bigger linebackers, and he did a great job blocking the other night. If we didn't tell you that was his first varsity game, you wouldn't be able to tell by watching the football game.
Yeah, I love – he's some of us coaches were talking, and he's one of those he plants his foot and he makes a move, right? He's not going to be one that's going to dance too much and maybe, the defense catches up to him. He's a plant and make a move type of guy. And I think he could be really special.
He plays fast. He plays the game fast. He runs his routes fast. Even if he doesn't know what to do, he's playing fast. That's the thing about him. You don't have to be fast to play fast. It's something I tell my guys all the time.
I thought the wide receivers as a whole, you talked a little bit about blocking with Gilly. I think as a whole, you're only going to be, and Coach Price talks about this all the time, wide receivers, you got to be able to make the blocks down the field in the perimeter, especially if we're going to do some perimeter plays, the quick throws we were doing. Guys got to be able to block out there for their own guys, for their own wide receivers to go make plays. And I thought we did a good job of that.
Coach Price preaches that a lot for our receivers, and they block way better this year than they blocked last year. They take a great pride in it. I think they're much stronger than they were last year, and they really just understand the scheme a lot better this year. In order for us to be able to throw screens on the outside and quick pass on the outside, you have to have your receivers to be able to spring the plays from a 5-yard game to a 20, 25-yard game.
I thought just to end in talking about the offense here, we go into to score to take the lead 23-17 on really, I thought was an excellent play design. A lot of times when we get in that trips bunch look and we're on the weak side there, we got it a couple times. Typically, sometimes will jump us to say we're going to run that way or something like that. It looked like, and correct me if I'm wrong in the way I read it and the way I saw it, 2 receivers went across the field dragging guys with them, and now you let Weiskopf can come right out to and slip out right to the pylon and was wide open, and Andrew obviously makes a good throw and Weiskopf a good catch.
Yeah, it was a typical mesh concept down inside the red zone. We was mix and matching our wide receivers at the time, so I put it to the boundary so I could make sure all of them knew what to do. So we had a corner route, and we had a quick flat. So we basically was high-low on the cornerback right now at the snap, and Andrew did a good job of finding Cade. I think the cornerback backed up for the corner route. Cade came open in the flats. Andrew made a quick, accurate throw.
I think he made good reads all night and really a lot of positive stuff moving forward for the offense. I know there's going to be obviously things you got to tweak. I think the run game, we may have wanted a little more in the run game, but again, that's going to come as we go. And we'll talk a little bit about the humidity and all that here in a bit. Let's look at the defense. I thought the defense, monster half in the first half. 3 sacks by Ian Johnson-Kelly. 2 hits that probably are some of the hardest sacks that I think I've seen in a long time in football. And luckily didn't get a penalty either from us. But when you had the defense be able to do that in the first half and set the tone, I think you saw their quarterback, Hammer, was a little antsy, right? He knows he got hit. He can get any time. Now he's a little bit antsy on it. What does that do defensively, speaking from an offensive mind, when you got pressure like that come to you that quickly in the game, has it changed maybe your offensively, your philosophy?
Well, the thing about it, we can get pressure without having to blitz as much. So, you can get a lot of guys back in coverage, so the quarterback has to hold the football just a second or 2 more. Only thing we was lacking last week, we had a lot of inexperienced guys playing their first time at linebacker. I think Kavion first game, Pender first game, and Elijah Perry. So I think as we go along, those guys will see it better. They'll see they run pass reads a lot better, and they'll be able to get downhill and stuff a lot of runs.
Well, that's what I was gonna. We kind of briefly talked about it here a second ago before starting. Is that you're able to see a lot of guys, especially in the secondary. A lot of guys coming in. All of a sudden, look at the roster and we're like, wait a minute, I did not expect to see him tonight, and some had to do with cramps. But I like the rotation, getting guys in, especially in a game where, hey, this is a tough, hard-fought game. Obviously it doesn't mean anything on the schedule, but you want to win every game. It doesn't matter if it counts or not. And they did a really, really good job. A play that really stands out to me was two plays, actually. You brought up Kavion Smith. It's his first time playing in a while with a knee injury.
Like 3 years
and,
almost.
And he comes out outside linebacker, misses a tackle, I think, for them to score. And then he doesn't miss a tackle again the rest of the night. And so for him to fight that adversity. And the second one that really stood out was Guy Vincent Pierre. They go after Duran. I think he gets an injury, maybe his helmet comes off, something cramp or something. He goes off. Guy Vincent comes in to replace him, and ING knew it, and they went right back at him, and he was in good coverage, and it was an overthrown ball. So seeing those things, and I thought we saw it more on the defensive side, getting guys in. Was that part of the game plan, or you just got to kind of go with because of injury and cramps and things like that?
Well, it was part of the game plan, but we also had to do a little bit more often because of injuries. But Guy's a good athlete. He's a tall kid. He's a long kid. He's a mentally tough kid, as you can see the other night. He jumped right in there and was defending man-on-man backside. All the kids did a good job back on the back end. We had to move Raheem to safety because we was down on safety when Corey went down for a long time. Yair has not came back from ankle injury yet, so we were short in the secondary, but they moved around a lot. They did a good job on the back end. And the thing about it, we just have more depth at the skill position than we had in years past.
And just to kind of wrap up last week's game, I think obviously CJ making the interception, getting a good return, putting us in a field position to go on and score probably, and you kind of look at it, maybe play the game and kind of sparked us to get us going there in the second half. But then you look at special teams. There's three phases: offense, defense, special teams. We had a little bit of a snafu with the punt, end up getting in field position to score. I don't know if they really scored, to be honest with you. They scored on big plays before, so I don't know if they really scored without that short field position. But, when I think that when you look at special teams, I think we had those guys again in the back end between all the skilled guys we can put back there, between Bond, Ramsey, Ty, Keyshawn. The return game could be really special on both punt return and kickoff return.
Yeah, the thing about not being able to practice is it showed in the game. Our special teams wasn't crisp as it usually is. Our tackling wasn't as crisp as it usually is. And up front, we didn't block. We couldn't sustain blocks as well as we've had in the past. So those are three things that you have to get out and be able to hit to get better at. You can't do walkthroughs to get better at tackling. You have to get on the field and tackle. You can't go through special teams on the board in order to be good at special teams. You got to get out there and be able to go through special teams and do it live. And you can't tackle people if you're not doing it at practice. So this week I think we have a chance to get back out there and do those things live and not just do mental walkthroughs. I
think what's hard and right before we go to this break, I want to make sure that folks out there understand that there's a statute, a law that does not allow us to practice after a certain wet bulb measurement. So not heat, it's a combination of basically how quickly does your body cool down from being really heated up. And so when you're over a certain measurement, we can't go out. And I would say, I talked to some of the coaches, some of you, I don't know how many full practices when we were supposed to practice after school for a good 2 hours. How many do we even have of those?
We may have practiced 3 full practices the entire 2 weeks before we play our first game. And the wet bulb is kind of low. It's only like 91, 92 degrees. So
right.
That's rather low, compared to back in our day when you can go out there. You had wet bulb. You can go out there with 100 plus in practice. So 92, and as you know, living in Florida, it's going to be at least 91, 92 every day in Florida.
Correct.
So it's tough to get out there and get full practices. And you got some other schools who may have indoor facilities or what have you, and they can get going and practice every single day. So it's an advantage, for some teams, but just have to make the most of it. You have to make the most of it. Try to get mental reps. Try to watch more film and get ahead in that perspective.
I know we've adjusted a little bit, maybe doing practice later on and that sort of thing. But I just don't think kids are getting acclimated to the heat enough to be able to go out and play on Friday night. But that's something that will be fixed down the road. We got to live with it and do what we can. And I thought Friday night was a really good start to the season, things to work on and things to build on. And we'll talk about the next game here, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here after a short break. You're listening to In the Eye of the Hurricane.
This is In the Eye of the Hurricane, the official podcast of Manatee Hurricanes football. Brought to you by Cablish and Gentile CPAs, servicing Manatee County for more than 40 years. When it comes to planning your future and achieving your financial goals, go to Cablish and Gentile CPAs. And by Coastline Contractors, general contracting in Anna Maria, Longboat, Bradenton, and Sarasota. Coastline makes the building process personal. And now, here's your host, Chad Choate.
Welcome back to In the Eye of the Hurricane. I'm Chad Choate, alongside head football coach Jacquez Green. Coach, talked a little bit about, before the break, about last week's victory, 23-17 over IMG. Let's talk about this week and our opponent, Lake Mineola High School. A lot of people like, Lake Mineola, where is that, right? I know it's obviously near a lake, but center of the interstate, take I-4, head up north a little bit, probably about halfway through about Haines City. And Lake Mineola is a name that we may not know, but really good football. They were 10-2 last year. They lost in the third round of the playoffs to Lakeland, who obviously went to the state finals. So coming off a kickoff classic, they played Dr. Phillips, who I know we're very familiar with our time in 8A and having to play Dr. Phillips. Beat them 27-20. You watch the film and they score real quick in the first quarter there 3 times off of a block punt return, a big bomb, a vertical play, and they pick up football all the way down to 10. But so that score maybe seemed a little bit deceiving, to be honest. But What did you see from Lake Mineola as you look, obviously, to schedule them this year? You saw film from last year. But this year, you guys kind of breaking them down over this past weekend. What do you see in Lake Mineola?
Lake Mineola is a team that's located in Lake County, Florida, which is right north of Orlando. They went to the state finals maybe 4 years ago, and that's when I first started noticing those guys. They've had success the last 4 or 5 years. They get a lot of the top players out of Lake County that decide to go play football at Lake Mineola. They have spread offense. They play pretty fast with tempo. Have some good players. The offensive line is good size. They're young guys up front. They're good size. One of their sophomore tackles is Adidas freshman All-American last year, so means he has talent. They have great skill on both sides of football. Big-time receivers. Real good defensive backs. They have a cornerback committed to Iowa State. They have a safety who's a good player with plenty of offers, and they have a slot receiver who's a big-time player who almost had like 900 yards receiving last year. So they got some good players, and the guys that graduated last year, they have some guys that transfer over to take those guys' space. So Lake Mineola is a team that's been ranked on the regular the last 4 or 5 years in 4S football now.
Yeah.
So they're a good football team. They'll be a good matchup for us. We'll get to go on the road, which is always fun for us and try to beat a good football team.
I think it's good to, especially beginning of the year here, before you get going, to get on the road and get travel. It's different playing at home and being in an environment you know, and the kids are used to it. It's different when you get on the road, you get on a bus, travel a couple hours, because you know if you want to get to the state championship, you're going to have to go through that at some point. And was that the reason why? I mean, obviously, other than Lake Mineola being good, did that factor in why you scheduled an away game like this for the first game?
Well, I wanted to play a good football team. And I knew Lake Mineola was a good football team, and we couldn't work it out to play here, and so we had to play at their place, and that didn't matter to me. Just as long as we get to play a team that's real good, because you can only test yourself by playing against some of the best teams in the state. And they've been proven to be a team that's one of the better teams in the state. For the last 4 or 5 years, they haven't been a flash in the pan, a type of team that may make a run 1 year, you don't hear from them 3 or 4 years. So they have been consistently one of the best teams in the state the last 4 or 5 years. So it's a team that our kids look forward to playing. They know they're a good football team, so it should be a good game Friday night.
Let's talk about Lake Mineola's offense first. Spread offense. It looks like nothing that's unusual we haven't seen. Their quarterback is gone. Their senior from last year threw for a little bit over 2,000 yards. So there's a replacement there where they may have got a guy come in, but they're still someone new. Believe their leading rusher is gone as well. I think he was a little over 1,000 yards. So a very productive offense. Obviously last year they do return. I think his name is Brylan Noth, maybe.
He's a slot receiver.
He was their leading receiver. Looks very good. Looks very athletic. He's the one I think that caught the deep ball against Dr. Phillips in the slot there. So what do you see offensively? Where do we got to be at our strong points defensively to defend their offense coming Friday?
Well, we got to stop the run, first of all, to make those guys one-dimensional. I think anytime we can make a team one-dimensional, our pass rush can get after the quarterback, and we have to know where number 3 at, on every play. He's the type of receiver that he can break the game open. He has good speed. He's put together well. Even though he's short, he's real well put together. And they try to get him to football various ways, and bubble screens and quick screens. And anytime they freeze the play, it seems as if the coordinator is trying to find a way to get him the football. So we have to know where 3 is on the field and have to stop the run to make those guys one-dimensional.
I don't think there's any really major, adjustments like we're going against a wing T team or anything like that defensively that I saw that would, other than you're going to have to make plays on a really good athlete in the slot there, and also bring pressure on the quarterback, right? I mean, you got to make him feel like he doesn't have time, even if he does have time. Make him feel antsy so he can't get the ball to number 3 quick. Yeah,
we have to get pressure on the quarterback. I think once a team is one-dimensional, then our guys can really pin their ears back and get to the quarterback. At the same time, we have to be cognizant of the screen game, because teams know that once we rush the passer, the first thing they're going to try to do is screen us and run draws. So we have to know if we get in there too easy, retreat, and know a screen coming.
Looking at their defense, Lake Mineola's defense, it doesn't look like anything we haven't seen in the past. I believe looks like a 3-4 defense. I'm sure they run a multiple of coverages. What does it look like for you as you guys broke down the film?
They do a lot on defense. It's hard to really pinpoint what they do. Even when we're breaking down film, they are getting into a over front one series. The next series they'll be in an odd front. They'll be in the odd front with true 4 linebackers on the field and 3 down linemen. They'll come back another series and have the the interior 3 down linemen in the bare front and still 4 linebackers on the field. They bring pressures from the corner. They bring slide pressures. They play. But, at the same time, if a team does all that, that means they're not really good at one particular thing. But they can make the game real ugly and real, chaotic. So we have to be mindful of our rules up front as far as pass protection, as far as run blocking. And I think if we run the football, that slows up all the blitzing and all the chaotic behavior on defense.
Coming from a guy, I love blitzing. I love being some exotic blitzes and things like that. You're absolutely right, though. Sometimes it's feast or famine with those types of defenses. You're going to be really good, make a really big play, or sometimes you're gonna give up a big play. And I think that's something offensively we have the capability of doing, is getting those big plays. And typically when you blitz, you're leaving somebody is one-on-one with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be really hard for a defense to do that to us and really be able to bracket or overload anybody, because any side, whether we put Bond on one side and Ramsey on the other and Gilly and Cossey, who AJ is another good one right there, good threat. Cade obviously in the middle as a tight end. You can't really defend everywhere.
Yeah, we have to do a good job of getting the ball out. Getting the ball out of Andrew's hand fast, because if they blitz, they're gonna have to avoid underneath zones. You can't cover everybody when you blitz, and then in order to cover everybody, you have to get in man-to-man. So at the same time, the next step would be B-man coverage, because that's usually their next step. After they fire zone a few times, then they just start going man-to-man and trying to bring the house. So we have to be able to handle pressure. That's the main thing this weekend. I think I'm going to go more 2 tight end sets to make guys have to get up in the box and play football, as opposed to walking all around on the field and we're not sure where they're coming from.
Yeah. Sometimes you can dictate, from offensive side, you can dictate with gaps that, hey, you if you know you're not covering that, then that's going to be a gap that's open for us. And maybe the run game opens up a little bit too with some of the guys blitzing. And as you do blitz, you can kind of get off kilter a little bit and be on one foot while you're getting hit and things like that. So, but as a young offensive line, what do you have to do preparing wise? How do you draw up all those blitzes that they possibly can do? Do you just kind of, here's our basic rules, no matter what, whether they throw a blitz or not, here's how we block and here's our basic rules? We make sure the kids know the basic protection rules, the basic run game rules. The main thing is protecting your play side gap as far as the run game. Somebody's going to come through your play side gap. If nobody comes to your play side gap, that means there's a huge hole in the defense. So our guys have to really take their tracks and keep their head up so we don't get any guys running through the line of scrimmage. Well, we're excited. I'm excited to get on the road. Really haven't had a game really traveling this far in a bit. I know we've got a fan bus going, a charter bus, and that's where we'll be on. And it'll be fun to get over there and play a new team. I like new atmospheres. I like new stadiums. You don't really know where you're going to go and set up, and it's just a new fun experience. And I think the guys will like that too. This is a team we haven't played in a stadium we haven't played in. I think that's good for the kids to experience those new things. Because hopefully, if we make a run, we're going to experience those things. Yeah, Lake Mineola, like I said at the beginning, they're a solid team. They played good teams before. They played Lakeland last year in the playoffs. I think they went to the state finals. They played Miami Central. They played Lakeland in the spring game. They played Jones and Dr. Phillips and the Park, all those guys, Edgewater, all those guys over in Orlando. So they went against good competition. I don't think their district and their immediate area is real strong, but they put good teams in their schedule and they play good football. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us this week as we talked a little bit about the IMG game and Lake Mineola coming up. So for fans out there, we are away at Lake Mineola, 7 o'clock kickoff. 7 o'clock kickoff. Not 7:30, so 7 o'clock kickoff. If you're traveling over there, obviously I-4 can be a little bit crazy, so give yourself some time. If you can't make the game, I know we will be audio broadcasting on 9:30 a.m. You can get that link through Facebook and also ManateeFootball.com. And also Manatee Football app. We are in the App Store on all your devices, Android and iOS. So download the app to be able to get connected. As far as the video broadcast this week, I believe that we have not heard back. I've not seen the back from their AD. But it looks like Lake Mineola is an NFHS school, which means they're contracted to run their live streams through NFHS. So that means we'll be blocked out typically. And you'll have to go on and pay their subscription to watch the game. We will get all that links, though, ready for you by Friday game day through Facebook, ManateeFootball.com, and the app. So stay tuned for those. As always, go Canes, go.
You've been listening to In the Eye of the Hurricane, the official podcast of Manatee Hurricanes football. Sponsored by Cablish and Gentile CPAs and Coastline Contractors. Be sure and join us again next time, right here, for another edition of In the Eye of the Hurricane.